3 persons were shot, one fatally, in a home robbery in Mount Valley, St. Elizabeth on Friday morning. Kimberly Broderick has the details.
19-year-old tattoo artist Omario Ross of Hayes, Clarendon, along with his brother Chin Ross and Brian Tomlinson, were shot in a home robbery in Mount Valley on Friday. Omario died on the spot. Reports are that around 1:30 a.m., 2 armed men posing as police knocked on their door claiming to be the police, and upon opening the door they were robbed of their money and cell phones. The men were placed on the ground and shot. A female companion, however, who was there was not harmed. The gunmen stole 2 vehicles from the house and escaped. The brother of the deceased is still in hospital. Deputy Superintendent of Police in the St. Elizabeth Division, Anthony Lewis, says an investigation is ongoing.
We are getting some information, and we are working on them, and we are just asking the family and the community to be patient and to call the Black River CIB or the Santa Cruz Police with any additional information that may be available. We want to get to the bottom of this in the shortest possible time to bring relief to the community and to reassure our police in activities as well as our citizens.
One resident, with tears in his eyes, is deeply saddened about the incident.
Nice to me, we just like that, just a minute away, the man. You come here and drink and so on. Yes, I'm said just like that.
So how you feel when you hear what happened?
I'm feeling, I cry, man. You mean how me feel? I'm like a pitney, man.
So how long have you known them? How long have you known them?
What that you had no man. First year she said me know them, she said using that thing that she live next door. You understand me? We just come on and we just live good then. Just like that. We don't know nothing more. But you know, it's a good so we move good.
He said though there has been several robberies around the area, this has been the worst and is the only one that ended fatally. The other 2 men who were shot remains hospitalized. Kimberly Broderick, Frontline News.
With a top-level probe underway into the seizure of 26 guns at ports in Kingston, the Police High Command says it will be clamping down more on arms trafficking. More from Michael Sharp.
The police, along with a contraband enforcement team of the Jamaica Customs Agency, seized 16 firearms at a container terminal on Thursday. This followed the discovery of 10 firearms and 640 rounds of ammunition at a wharf in Kingston on Wednesday. Head of the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, CTOC, Assistant Commissioner Fitz Bailey, is expecting more seizures.
For instance, last week we had in less than, I think it was 6 days, 24 firearms, and that trend has been improving. So we are making more effort, and our intelligence is getting better, and I believe ultimately we're going to see more seizures.
During Thursday's operation, CTOC, the Narcotics Division, and the Contraband Enforcement Team conducted operations at a container terminal where they discovered the 16 9mm pistols, 16 magazines, and a 9mm round of ammunition. 4 persons were held following Wednesday's seizure. The 10 guns were seized shortly before 7 o'clock in the evening during an inspection of a barrel which arrived from Atlanta in the U.S. The barrel was destined for a Kingston 13 address. And National Security Minister Dr. Harris Chang says the gun seizures highlight the need for tighter security at the island's ports.
We don't manufacture guns, so we have to stop the guns coming in. Big part of what we propose to do, but it is an expensive process. We have to have the police intelligence team in place. We have excellent police officers in that area and an excellent teamwork from intelligence. But we have to be able to intercept the guns coming in. So we have to make sure the port is tight and we have the capacity to intercept the boats that come in illegally.
Michael Sharp, Frontline News.
The legal hurdles were cleared on Friday for the further extension of the state of emergency in sections of the corporate area. The Senate complimented the House of Representatives during its sitting on Friday, which will see the state of emergency continuing into next year when it expires on January 7. The arguments to defend the suspension of some of the citizens' rights were repeated by the government's side by Senator Leader Kamina Johnson-Smith. Senator Donna Scott Motley, opposition Senate leader, repeated the caution about states of emergency. She questioned what was the justification for the latest one, noting that it was the greatest admission of failure. Senator K.D. Knight, a former Minister of National Security, noted that he was supporting the extension of the state of emergency not because he wanted to, but because he had no choice.
Had there been an alternative, what we would have been seeing is that in the most volatile areas, we would have the state of emergency. And in other areas where people's lives are threatened by criminal activity, there would be very heightened police presence, security presence in the particular areas. But that's not happening. So that what we find is that we have an approach which does not take into account the problem that exists island-wide.
All 19 senators in attendance voted in favor of the extension. Violence against the nation's children is on the rise. The government is taking urgent steps to contain the scourge. More from Marion Myrie.
The Ministry of Education on Friday announced plans to hire a security firm to provide protection and reassurance to students in the corporate area. This comes amidst recent reports of students of Kingston College and St. George's College being robbed on North Street. Director of Safety and Security in Schools in the Education Ministry, Assistant Superintendent Coolidge Minto, on Thursday gave a snapshot of the ministry's intention.
The police have given a commitment to increase their patrol, and the Kingston Central Police, they indicated that there will be a dedicated patrol along North Streets and its environment between the hours of 2:30 and 5. And that's very commendable.
Right.
But let me just add to that.
Yeah.
One of the things we did following the JC incident was we engaged private security company to assist with patrols during that period along certain corridors. And we are again going through that process. We have already sent out something for some quotations, and we will be looking to see if we can engage, especially for the rest of the school term, to have mobile patrols by private security in and around the main corridors along where those schools are concentrated.
He was speaking on Hotline Interface on Thursday. Marion Myrie, Frontline News.
Jamaica leads the way. An IDP study showed that Jamaica has one of the lowest number of prisoners detained without conviction in Latin America and the Caribbean. Sasha Lee Hamilton has the details.
The Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, has published the findings of a study which looked at the treatment of prisoners. The study found that Jamaica was amongst the top 5 countries with the least number of prisoners detained without a conviction. The other countries which were accorded a similar ranking were Belize, Panama, Nicaragua, as well as Trinidad and Tobago. Conversely, of the 24 countries studied, Haiti headed the list with 79% of people detained without a conviction, followed by Paraguay, Bolivia, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay. The IDB report further indicated that between 1999 and 2017, 79% of prisoners in Haiti were detained without being sentenced. That was higher than the Latin American and Caribbean region average of 44%. Also of note in the report is that in the last 10 years, the region has introduced major reforms to speed up procedures and judgments that in most cases have led to the downward trend in illegal detentions. Despite this, the IDB says the number of persons deprived of their liberty without conviction remains high. Sasha Lee Hamilton, Frontline News.
The Diabetes Association of Jamaica has withdrawn support of a campaign by the Health Ministry. More from Michael Sharp.
The Diabetes Association of Jamaica has withdrawn its endorsement of the current campaign by the Health Ministry, to restrict certain sugary drinks from public schools. The disclosure was made by the president and co-founder of the association, Professor Errol Morrison.
It needs to be tweaked. There needs to be pointing out it's obesity you're talking about. And if you're talking obesity, then you can, you see, you may say, but that is a minor point, but to me, it's a big problem because it's scientifically unsound.
While he's in full support of campaigns to improve nutrition and reduce obesity, the messages in the ministry's campaign, he finds, are not medically correct and need changing. Specifically, the messages are leading the public to believe that sugary drinks cause diabetes. Professor Morrison has acknowledged that despite the withdrawal of the endorsement, he accepts that the Diabetes Association of Jamaica and the Ministry of Health have a common purpose of improving the diet and health of Jamaicans. Clinical nutritionist Suzanne Suarez-Winter also weighed in on the issue.
Yes, sugary drinks themselves don't cause diabetes, but they do contribute to increased risk of diabetes via the increased risk with obesity. So sugary drinks does increase the number of calories that you have, which causes obesity, and that leads to increased risk of diseases like diabetes.
In the meantime, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton defends the move to restrict the sale of sugary drinks in schools.
Based on the interpretation of what was carried as opposed to what may have been the context. On the face of it, it certainly suggests that that statement flies in the face of significant research that has been done and conclusions drawn. And, you know, it would be most discouraging if someone with that stature would make that statement against a body of work that is tested and proven, because it certainly wouldn't do a lot to help the cause of health and wellness in the country, which is what we're attempting to champion.
Michael Sharp, Frontline News.
Frustration has escalated in the impasse between workers on the Mandela Highway Improvement Project and China Harbour Engineering Company CHEC. This has prompted the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, UCASE, to seek the Prime Minister's intervention. More from Javine McLean.
UK's President Vincent Morrison confirms that the relationship between the parties has deteriorated to the point where this is now necessary. Now in its sixth day, the employees' strike action is aimed at securing better working conditions and wages. Tensions escalated Thursday following a meeting involving government and CHEC officials, to which trade unions representing the CHEC workers on strike were not invited. Mr. Morrison states the matter has to be settled.
I've written to the Permanent Secretary in OPM requesting a meeting for either tomorrow or Monday for her convenience. We hope we'll get some out there.
He was speaking on Thursday on Beyond the Headlines. Javine McLean, Frontline News.
The Office of the Public Defender is concerned an Emergency Powers Review Tribunal has not been named for the state of public emergency in the corporate area. The concern was expressed on Thursday during RGR 94 FM's program Hotline. The state of public emergency was declared on September 23, and at that time, Prime Minister Andrew Holness disclosed that he had already made his selections for the panel. However, he said he was awaiting the Chief Justice to name his pick. In the meantime, Public Defender Arlene Harrison Henry is lamenting that conditions for detainees under the states of public emergency have not improved.
The process of taking up young men from communities has not changed. The circumstances and conditions under which they are held, those have not changed. The $300 per day for 3 meals for each adult man has not changed. All that has happened is more and more persons have come into
I'm Emily Shields. And Hotline is going to look even hotter on JNN. Welcome to Hotline Interface. And today we have with us...
That's RJR's 94 Hotline on JNN. Every Thursday at 10:10 a.m. It's more than talk. It's substance.
Several persons gathered around an unconscious woman.
We executed a search warrant for firearms.
News Rewind on weekends at 8 p.m. on JNN.
RJR 94 FM celebrates 68 years, one station, a host of dynamic personalities, consistently credible news and sports, and a variety of the most engaging programs. RJR, in service to Jamaica and the world. 68 and still sounding great. Congratulations to the Big 94. Passion, people, personalities.
Keep up with the business of the day every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. on JNN as we trade views with the movers and shakers of business in Jamaica on The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum. Riveting discussions, engaging business moguls, and disruptive ideas. That's The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. And remember to catch the rebroadcast at 4 p.m. on Sundays.
Welcome to Frontline Business. I'm Sasha Lee Hamilton. In business news today, following calls for businesses to reduce prices in the wake of the revaluation of the Jamaican dollar against the U.S. currency, economist Dr. Andre Horton says some businesses may not be able to do it quickly. More from Javine McLean.
On Wednesday, immediate past president of the National Consumers League, Trevor Samuels, said businesses should adjust the prices of goods and services that were increased due to the depreciation of the local currency. However, Dr. Horton said while he understands the position taken by Mr. Samuels, the matter is not as simple as it appears. He said businesses are trying to buffer themselves against the movement in the exchange rate and fluctuations in prices.
We have to understand the pricing dynamics of companies because if a company is supposed to at every given time alter its price whenever the exchange rate depreciates or appreciates, then it will find itself changing its menu every week. Take KFC, for example. If KFC is importing at one particular price this week and next week the exchange rate change and KFC are required to alter their prices, then it's going to cause some inconsistency throughout their particular marketing strategy and so on and so forth.
In addition, he says Jamaicans place too much emphasis on the exchange rate as their pricing indicator.
When I ask my students in class which are they more familiar with, the exchange rate or the inflation rate, my students are more familiar with the exchange rate. And so too are most Jamaicans because they want to see. So the real issue here is how do we keep prices stable? Because as bad as inflation is, fluctuating domestic prices are also negative. Following, so we want prices to be stable over time. We don't want prices to fluctuate. And if it is the case that Jamaicans use the exchange rate as an indicator of where prices should go, then the Bank of Jamaica should take this into consideration.
Dr. Houghton gave an example of other countries taking steps to ensure that the movement in the exchange rate does not affect the prices of goods and services.
Trinidad, for example, in their budget of this year, outlined that with the monetary policy and so on, is that they have been very skillful at curtailing their exchange rate within a particular band so that consumers and consumer prices are not negatively affected by the volatility of import prices.
It is now costing an average $134 for the American currency. It was above $137 in August. Javine McLean, Frontline Business.
And the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, country economist for Jamaica, Henry Mooney, says the country's macroeconomic indicators are moving in the right direction. The details from Kimberly Broderick.
Mr. Mooney says there has never been a better time to be operating in the private sector in Jamaica, at least not in the last 20 years. He argues that statistically, in terms of macroeconomic backdrop, business owners should be motivated and sensitized to continue developing. He labels this as one of the key issues without which businesses wouldn't be able to make progress. Mr. Mooney noted that economists are normally seen as dismal scientists. However, he said since moving to Jamaica, he is now able to refer to himself as an optimistic scientist. The country economist representative noted that the country is currently in a better position to do things that it wasn't able to do over the past 2 to 3 decades. He said this was made possible through extraordinary efforts undertaken by the government over the course of the past 5 to 6 years to establish macro stability. A growth optimism and uncertainty chart presented by Mr. Mooney for the region has projected Jamaica as the only country in the region that is expected to see a marginal gross domestic product (GDP) of under 3% over a 5-year period starting in 2017. The other countries are the Bahamas, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago. Kimberly Broderick, Frontline Business.
On the foreign exchange market on Friday, the US dollar on average is being sold for $133.80. The Canadian went for $103.70. The pound sterling for $173.77, and the euro for $156.38. In Friday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 8,300 points to close at over 300,000. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 59 stocks, of which 34 advanced, 17 declined, and 8 traded firm. The Junior Market Index advanced by 14 points to close at 3,415. Stocks advancing were Barita Investments, Cargo Handlers, Caribbean Cement, Caribbean Cream, and Carreras Limited. Stocks declining were 1834 Investments, Access Financial, Berger Paints, CAC 2000, and Derriman Trading. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, Caribbean Producers, Consolidated Bakeries, and Honeybun. Mayberry Investments Limited was the volume leader with over 1 million units, followed by Indus Pharma Jamaica with over 600,000 units and Sagicor Group with over 500,000 units. News in oil. Crude futures rose on Friday as U.S. unemployment data eased concerns about demand in the world's top oil consumer, with both benchmarks set for a weekly gain ahead of U.S. sanctions on Iranian oil exports. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 35 cents to $74.68 a barrel. Brent crude futures gained 9 cents to $84.67 a barrel. And that's it for Frontline Business. I'm Sasha Lee Hamilton.
Days, weeks, months, and years. It's never too late. It's all in one spot.
Hey folks, good morning and welcome.
In food, drop in food, make you see your
college.
Live streaming from all brands, thousands of hours of video on demand. Discover the island's best by downloading the app or typing onespotmedia.com.
Hi, I'm Emily Shields. And Hotline is going to look even hotter on JNN. Welcome to Hotline Interface. And today we have with us...
That's RJR's 94 Hotline on JNN. Every Thursday at 10:10 a.m. It's more than talk. It's substance. Keep up with the business of the day every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. on JNN as we trade views with the movers and shakers of business in Jamaica on The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum. Riveting discussions, engaging business moguls, and disruptive ideas. That's The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. And remember to catch the rebroadcast at 4 p.m. on Sundays.
Several persons gathered around an unconscious woman.
Team executed a search warrant for firearms.
News Rewind on weekends at 8 p.m. on JNN.
RJR 94 FM celebrates 68 years, one station, a host of dynamic personalities, consistently credible news and sports, and a variety of the most engaging programs. RJR, in service to Jamaica and the world. 68 and still sounding great. Congratulations to the Big 94. Passion, people, personalities.
Light says the union will be threatening another strike if payment issues are not resolved. We have more in this report.
The Guyana Teachers Union threatens another strike. The union on Wednesday called on the Minister with responsibility for Labour, Keith Scott, to withdraw the appointment of the chairman of the arbitration panel to be established to resolve the teachers' pay issue.
The union left the meeting last Tuesday, and we indicated subsequently that we will give the minister with responsibility for labor 7 days to rescind his appointment, and today, being the 7th day, we indicated that thereafter the union will be proceeding on industrial action. In fact, that we will be calling our members out for the second time to be engaged in strike action.
President of the GTU, Mark Light, says the union rejects the persons nominated since it wasn't in position and not agreed to by the union.
We are here this morning to let you know that we have rejected the individual who was appointed, and we believe that a neutral person should be nominated for both sides to agree on the panel. I'm of the view that there is some sinister plans afoot to thwart the process and not to allow fairness and equity to prevail.
Member of Parliament for Fox Hill in Bahamas, Sean Ferguson, is at the center of a legal battle. It is alleged that a company she operates has accumulated hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid bills to government entities. The details in this report.
According to the lawsuit, the deal for the purchase of the building was executed in December of 2005 and involved Ferguson's company agreeing to pay a $150,000 deposit plus $1.35 million to be broken down into 264 monthly installments of $10,833. Daybreak says those payments stopped coming in September 2016, despite the building being leased at that time for $12,000 per month. As a result, they're suing TCI for $249,159, which they say represents 23 months of outstanding payments. And that's not all. Daybreak alleges that a real property tax bill for the building totals $74,069.22, and they want TCI to pay up. Additionally, an insurance premium for the building that Daybreak alleges it had to make payment on totals $15,963.75. It's asking the court for that, as well as $19,877.37, the total of an outstanding water bill. In TCI's defense, it says that it only owes interest payments and that outstanding water bill is for previous tenants. According to an affidavit filed by Ferguson, TCI spent $700,000 in renovations on the building. Additionally, she says that as the economy declined and crime escalated in the area, the parties agreed to reduce the monthly payment to $5,000 per month until the economy improved. She says TCI paid $1,548,609 to Daybreak, and as that amount exceeds the amount owed on the hire purchase agreement, the only amount due was the interest, which was being determined by attorneys Craig Roberts and Phil.
In St. Lucia, the Minister of Labour has ended his third ministerial mission to Canada with a trade show. The show brought horticulturists together to display works, products and services. More in this report.
Labour Minister Stevenson King's three-week mission to Canada culminated with Western Canada's premier horticultural trade show, CanWest Hort Expo. The expo connects buyers and sellers throughout Canada and the Pacific Northwest. King has been in Canada visiting farms and employers, exploring job opportunities for citizens.
Which brings together horticulturists and landscapers and industry participants or industry providers into one venue where they display all of their works and all of the supplies and equipment which they either sell or engage in. And I must admit that today's experience is an eye-opener for me as Minister responsible for Labour, in that it gave me an opportunity to interact with the BC Landscape and Horticulturist Association. It also an opportunity to interact with a number of horticulturists and companies engaged in landscaping and horticulture and other providers in the industry. In a number of instances, we were able to negotiate with employers and horticulturists and landscapers in the industry who are certainly in need of workers on the various farms and estates where they produce the necessary plants and other ornamental things that they grow here in Canada.
Following the trade show, King is hoping to continue dialogue between the Labour Ministry, the St. Lucian Consulate and CanWest partners.
It's never too late. It's all in one spot.
Hey folks, good morning and welcome.
In food, drop in I food them, make you see about
College.
Live streaming from all brands, thousands of hours of video on demand. Discover the island's best by downloading the app or typing onespotmedia.com. One Spot.
Hi, I'm Emily Shields. And Hotline is going to look even hotter on JMN. Welcome to Hotline Interface. And today we have with us...
That's RJR's 94 Hotline on JNN. Every Thursday at 10:10 a.m. It's more than talk. It's substance. Keep up with the business of the day every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. on JNN as we trade views with the movers and shakers of business in Jamaica on The Exchange, Financial Gleaner and JNN Business Forum. Riveting discussions, engaging business moguls and disruptive ideas. That's The Exchange, Financial Gleaner and JNN Business Forum, every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. And remember to catch the rebroadcast at 4 p.m. on Sundays.
RJR 94 FM celebrates 68 years, one station, a host of dynamic personalities, consistently credible news and sports, and a variety of the most engaging programs. RJR in service to Jamaica and the world. 68 and still sounding great. Congratulations to the Big 94. Passion, people, personalities.
Officer Jason Van Dyke was found guilty Friday of second-degree murder in the 2014 shooting of a black teenager, 17-year-old Laquan McDonald. Van Dyke, who was also found guilty of 16 counts of aggravated battery, sat impassively in a dark suit, his shoulders slumped, as the verdicts were read in the high-profile case.
Will you please read the verdicts?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Van Dyke, guilty of second-degree murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Van Dyke, guilty of aggravated battery with a firearm, first shot. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Van Dyke, guilty of aggravated battery with a firearm, second shot. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Van Dyke, guilty of aggravated battery with a firearm, 14th shot. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Van Dyke, guilty of aggravated battery with a firearm, 15th shot. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Van Dyke, guilty of aggravated battery with a firearm, 16th shot. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Van Dyke, not guilty of official misconduct. 12 signatures.
At this time, Mr. Herbert.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has dismissed the anger over the Salisbury nerve agent poisoning, calling the former Russian double agent a traitor and a scumbag, and suggesting the incident was being artificially blown up by the media. More from the CNN.
These two individuals that were named by the British law enforcement authorities as Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bashirov as being the suspects, the main suspects in this Novichok poisoning in Salisbury. Previously, the Russian position had been that these names, these photographs that were issued are meaningless. Now Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has come out and said, look, actually, we know who they are. We've identified them. And by the way, there's nothing criminal in what they did. And he also went on to encourage them to come out and speak to the media. And so that's raised expectations. We're going to be hearing from those individuals themselves. He also, Vladimir Putin, made the point, and he was asked this question, are they members of the military, are they civilians? He said, yes, they are civilians. So rejecting that allegation, which has been made by British investigators, that these were two figures who were agents of the GRU, Russian military intelligence, who carried out a state-sanctioned operation, allegedly, in Salisbury to poison that former GRU officer, Sergei Skripal, and his daughter, Julia. That's a version of events that, even though the Russians, through Vladimir Putin, have now acknowledged the existence of these individuals, the version of events that they were spies sent on an assassination mission is still being denied by the Russians. And of course, this has been an extraordinarily damaging episode for the Russians. 153 of their diplomats were expelled as a result of this. And of course, there are sanctions from the US on Russia because
India could soon be faced with the threat of US sanctions following a controversial $5 billion weapons deal with Russia. More in this report.
Well, that's the question, Max. Analysts expect that if this deal, as widely expected, is signed, it's a deal for this very large Russian missile system, the S-400. It's been in the works for several years. Analysts expect that the U.S. will grant India a waiver under this new law that's meant to discourage countries from transacting with Russia in this way. China was sanctioned last month, but India is not expected to be sanctioned, and that's because India is, of course, very different to China when it comes to U.S. foreign policy. China is a geopolitical rival. India is a country that the U.S. has been cultivating as a strategic partner, increasingly a defense partner. In recent years, you said quite rightly that Russia is still a major arms supplier to India. This is a legacy that goes back to the Cold War. India and Russia have been close ever since then. But in recent years, of course, India and the U.S. have been growing ever closer, and the U.S. has sought to cultivate India as a foil to China. We saw that under successive U.S. administrations, under the Obama administration. Last month, we had the U.S. Defense Secretary and the Secretary of State in New Delhi, and the tone that they've all been striking has been positive. They want to maintain this relationship, keep it strong. Sanctions would, of course, throw a spanner in the works there, which is why analysts expect that when this deal is signed, India will get a waiver from the U.S. to be able to go ahead with this. Max?
We now...
It's all in one spot.
Hey folks, good morning and welcome.
In food, drop in I food them, make it see
Champion College.
Live streaming from all brands, thousands of hours of video on demand. Discover the island's best by downloading the app or typing onespotmedia.com.
Several persons gathered around an unconscious woman.
We've executed a search warrant for firearms.
News Rewind on weekends at 8 p.m. on Keep Up with the Business of the Day every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. on JNN as we trade views with the movers and shakers of business in Jamaica on The Exchange, Financial Gleaner and JNN Business Forum. Riveting discussions, engaging business moguls and disruptive ideas. That's The Exchange, Financial Gleaner and JNN Business Forum, every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. And remember to catch the rebroadcast at 4 p.m. on Sundays. For a clearer understanding of the issues of the day, the cause and effect, join JNN's Insight on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Insight, a deeper look at the story behind the story. Insight, your reality check on what matters most. That's Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on JNN for your insight. JNN, news worth watching.
Hi, I'm Emily Shields. And Hotline is going to look even hotter on JMN. Welcome to Hotline Interface. And today we have with us...
That's RJR's 94 Hotline on JNN. Every Thursday at 10:10 a.m. It's more than talk. It's substance.
Welcome back to Frontline News, and it's time for Frontline Sports. I'm Kimberly Broderick. In sports news today, the Inter-Secondary Schools Sports Association will be implementing amendments to its transfer rules, which it says will help to restrict the negative impact being created by the transfer of student athletes between schools. Among the changes are transferred students will not be allowed to participate if transferred amongst member schools more than once. Schools' teams will have a limit or quota placed on the number of transferred students for various ISA-run competitions. In this regard, each student will only be regarded as part of the receiving school's quota for a competition if they had previously registered with another member school for the said sport for which he or she is being registered. The quotas will see football, cricket, and hockey allow 3 transferred students, netball, volleyball, and basketball allotted 2 students, swimming and table tennis 1 student, while track and field will be allowed 2 athletes per class. Students who move from one member school to another as of January 1, 2019 will be subject to the quota system for all ISA competitions with effect January 1, 2020. Caron Hall recorded a surprising 3-1 victory over St. Mary Technical, who began the day as Zone J leaders in rescheduled action in the ISA Water Da Costa Cup competition Thursday. The other game in the zone saw St. Mary High defeating Guyzil 2-0 to regain the lead on 16 points, 2 ahead of St. Mary Technical. Longtime Jamaica Chess Federation President Ian Wilkinson is now the honorary vice president of the World Chess Federation, FIDE, after being elected at the FIDE General Assembly held in Batumi, Georgia on Thursday. Wilkinson was appointed by Russian Arkady Dvorkovich a day after he was elected the new president of FIDE, which means he will now sit on the presidential board with a number of persons, including executive officers and presidents of various continental associations. Former Aston Villa striker Dwight York has applied for the vacant managerial role at Villa Park and believes he can get the club promoted back to the Premier League. York, who played for Villa between 1989 and 1998, has handed in his CV to the club again, having gone for the job before the appointment of Steve Bruce, who was sacked on Wednesday. Villa's caretaker manager Kevin McDonnell revealed on Friday that the club are already looking at potential candidates, and he expects an appointment to be made before their match against Swansea on October 20. York, 46, claims to have the backing of one of his former managers, Sir Alex Ferguson, and believes he has the relevant qualifications despite only having the experience of a brief stint as Trinidad and Tobago's assistant manager. Jose Mourinho says there are many different reasons why Manchester United are struggling this season and admits it would be unacceptable to go 5 matches without a win. The United boss held a 3-minute press conference on Friday morning where he only answered questions about Saturday's game against Newcastle. When asked why United are struggling this season, Mourinho replied, quote, "for many different reasons," end quote. The Portuguese refused to tell reporters any of those reasons and did not respond when asked if he could assure United fans that he was doing everything he can to try to turn things around. United sit 10th in the Premier League, and although Mourinho isn't reading much into the league table so early in the season, he admits United need a positive result against Newcastle Saturday after taking 1 point for their last 2 games. United have not won at Old Trafford since the 2-1 victory over Leicester on the opening day of the season, and Tuesday's goalless draw with Valencia extended their winless run at home to 4 games. And with that, we wrap up Frontline Sports for this evening. I'm Kimberly Broderick. Pleasant viewing.
Keep up with the business of the day every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. on JNN as we trade views with the movers and shakers of business in Jamaica on The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum. Riveting discussions, engaging business moguls, and disruptive ideas. That's The Exchange, Financial Gleaner, and JNN Business Forum every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. And remember to catch the rebroadcast at 4 p.m. on Sundays.
We have it. Live. Days, weeks, months, and years. It's never too late. It's all in one spot.
Hey folks, good morning and welcome.
In food, drop in pipe to them, make you see
Champion College.
Live streaming from all brands, thousands of hours of video on demand. Discover the island's best by downloading the app or typing onespotmedia.com.
For a clearer understanding of the issues of the day, the cause and effect, join JNN's Insight on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Insight, a deeper look at the story behind the story. Insight, your reality check on what matters most. That's Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on JNN for your insight. JNN, news worth watching.
Welcome back to Frontline News. It's now time for the weather report.
Good evening. I'm Sasha Lee Hamilton with your weather report and forecast supplied by the Met Service. There is a broad area of low pressure across the Western Caribbean. The broad area of low pressure is expected to further develop as it continues to drift towards the northwest and away from the Caribbean basin. Expect unstable weather conditions to persist across the island for another day or two. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with lingering showers across sections of the island. Saturday morning will also see mostly cloudy conditions with periods of showers across sections of southern and eastern parishes. On Saturday afternoon, expect scattered showers and thunderstorms across sections of most parishes. That was your weather report and forecast supplied by the Met Service. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Sasha Lee. And before we go, here's a recap of the top stories. 3 persons were shot, 1 fatally, in a home robbery in Mount Valley, St. Elizabeth. Police High Command says it will be clamping down more on arms trafficking. Senate votes in favor of extension of the state of emergency in sections of the corporate area. Violence against the nation's children is on the rise. In business news, business owners are being asked to reduce prices in the wake of the revaluation of the Jamaican dollar against the U.S. currency. In the region, Guyana's Teachers Union says it will be threatening another strike And further overseas, a white Chicago police officer found guilty of second-degree murder for the shooting of a black teenager. And in sports, the Intersecondary School Sports Association will be implementing amendments to its transfer rules. And that's it for Frontline News. Remember, you can watch our live stream at onespotmedia.com. On behalf of our editorial and production teams, I'm Cody Ann Barrett. Pleasant viewing.